Hi, my name is Rachelle Lifpitz. I'm actually a USPTA coach, so people call me Rachelle, Coach Rachelle. I wrote this book, Just Love Tennis for Kids, so that everyone can learn tennis. They don't have to actually learn from a pro. You can learn all by yourself just by using the explanation captions on this tennis book. It's actually a tennis manual coloring book as well, and a fun reading book. The characters will get you involved and have fun with them. This is Addie. She kind of looks like me, right? And this is my brother, Nettie, and kind of looks like him. Although you can color them yourselves and make it look like you.
Now, what was the genesis of this idea?
The genesis of this idea was I went to the US Open in 2016, and one of my best girlfriends said, "You're moving to Arizona? Who's going to teach my grandbabies?" And I said, "Well, you're going to have to just write down what I tell you." So we went out on the court, and she literally wrote down everything that I told her, and her grandson continued to play tennis week after week. And all of a sudden she says, "You know what? I've got a book here. You have taught me how to teach my kid tennis, my grandkid tennis. You should write a book." And so I told her, yes, just use it as an underhand. Go ahead and use an underhand throw, and you'll be able to do it yourself. Then I thought to myself, who's going to teach my grandbaby? What if I don't have grandchildren for 10 years? Well, I happened to get one last year, so it's cool. But turns out that I put this together so the future kids of this generation should be able to get off the couch and actually play tennis and enjoy the sport, because it's a lifetime sport. And it not only is a fun thing to do, it's also balances your brain. I happen to have a daughter that was off the charts at 18 months old. I didn't know what to do with her. And I got her on a racquetball court, and I gave her a huge racket, like these type of rackets back here, real old ones. And I said, let's hit the ball around, make her move. And it started to balance her brain. And as I knew later in life, she needed brain balance because she was that smart. Her left side of the brain, her right side of the brain was so smart. And now today, she actually played D1 ball tennis at UNC in Colorado. She actually had a scholarship. She could have gone anywhere in where was it? She wanted to go to California because she just thought California was the bomb. And she did get 2 offers in California, one Concordia University, and then the other one was Cal Poly. And she actually signed for Cal Poly, and then they closed her program right before. But since she was such a great tennis player, UNC in Colorado said, oh, she cannot not play tennis. So they gave her a scholarship for the year, and she played and loved it, and then realized, hey, Mom, I'm not going to go pro because those international girls were just kicking my butt.
Right.
And she didn't want to, her passion was not necessarily over, but she had a different direction. She had to make sure that her schooling was correct. And the schooling wasn't quite correct for her because she wanted to become a doctor. So she went to CU Boulder, got a merit scholarship, and ended up, now she takes care of cancer patients here down in Arizona. She's actually a patient care coordinator for Envita Medical Center, and runs all the other medical assistants. So she's now done her passion. And I don't think she'd ever would have done this passion had it been for tennis, because tennis balances her. She even to this day has to have movement. She also realizes that tennis made her an all-around person by time management. Everything she has to do in her life has come together, and that's why she actually saves lives. So that's one reason I put it together. Another reason was my brother, Alan Isaacs, had actually passed away during the same time I was writing it. So I put it in his memory. He was the just do it guy. He started with Nike as an 18-year-old guy that was a first string pitcher for UCLA. And he was offered to rep Nike. And he was the first California rep of all Southern California.
Okay.
And he was just always the just do it guy. And he would tell me, just do it. And if you were to tell me 10 years ago if I was going to write this book, I would say, you're crazy, because I'm all right brained and I can
Right.
draw and I was a clothing designer and I'm a tennis pro, but not
Not
definitely
that
not
side. Yeah.
the other side of the brain. So guess what? Tennis balanced in my brain. So I was able to write this book.
Well, and you touched on something very important there, especially when you're getting kids involved, is that kids are, and I don't care whose kid you have, they're all over the place. I was one of them. I was one of those kids that, if we had a book for class or the textbook, I read it the first week that I had it in that weekend. And then I had nothing to do the rest of the school year. I'd already read the entire book. I was just weird like that. Still weird like that, but in other ways too. But and that teaches you that kind of, you're not going to get it right away. It's okay. We're going to go through the process of learning. You're not going to have Pete Sampson served tomorrow.
No.
You're not going to come up with that. You're not going to have Federer's forehand next week. You
Yeah.
have to work your way through it. And that teaches you patience. Like you said, it teaches you time management skills, because you got to show up for each lesson. It teaches you socialization skills that I think that we are sorely lacking in this day and age when we're doing what we're doing right here. But to some people, it's the norm instead of just we're doing it because this is what we want to do. And a lot of other things that I think that you really need to have, cooperation. I don't think anytime I talk to someone about athletics, I understand that we're all on the same team. And if you're taking a group lesson, you can't be the only one overhitting here. Everyone's got to be involved. So I appreciate the way you put that. So now you said your brother was the just do it guy. How does that rub off on you? And how does that rub off on you and now as a teaching pro and so on and so forth?
So because he was such a just do it kind of guy, he in his living he was that, but in his passing it showed me to just love and to send out as many messages as I possibly could. And being a USPTA coach, I feel when I'm on a tennis court, I just feel the love. I feel the children, how passionate they are. And to call our tennis game love, and people say, well, love means zero in tennis. Well, guess what? It means everything to Coach Rachelle.
Yeah.
And it is incredible how kids become so normal on a tennis court where they might have a little ADD or an ADD or they, and we all have it in us. It's not, I had a boy that came to me with a father that was a heart surgeon. And he says to me, my son is special. And I said, of course he is. All kids are special. Well, he meant special in the way that he would hit and miss a ball. So don't expect anything other than that. And I said, don't worry, it'll be just fine. So yes, at first he swung and he missed and he swung and he missed. Well, guess what? On his left side, man, did he have a backhand.
Right.
Wow, he was all about science and math and ooh, was he good. Then he went to try to do his forehand. Well, he's not very artsy. He had no creativity. Well, guess what now? He not only hits a forehand, he hits it strong with topspin. He can do slice. This is a 10-year-old little boy.
Right.
Guess what? His passion was, I'm gonna play, I'm gonna hit this. I gave him his foundation. Now he's playing and he's playing tournaments. And his dad goes to say to me, oh, that's really crazy, because here's a boy that can't even read. Actually, he couldn't read. He was dyslexia. And guess what he does now? First thing he ever read to his father was my book.
There you go. Good.
So there you go. So the passion from my book not only gets kids excited, and they don't realize what it's doing to their brains, and they don't understand that all of these things that we know as moms and dads and adults, that is actually helping them in their skills of sitting still even being able to sit still, comprehend, and their hand-eye coordination. I mean, there's so much passion and so many things that tennis does. I mean, it's the way you should live your life. If you
Right,
see
right.
anybody on a tennis court, it's the way they live their life. You can see their fear and you can see their love. Well, I have turned so many people in from fear to love since they played the love game called tennis.
And it's the progression as well. That's the thing that's the beautiful thing of it. I was a high school coach for a while, and I had two freshmen. We started inside the gymnasium during the winter, and they were lucky to hit the wall. And I'm serious. Like, I just need you to hit the ball off that wall. And they couldn't do it. Like, oh, wow. By the time they were seniors, they were my 1 and 2 players. And they're great people. I was going to call them kids. They're not kids anymore. They're great people. But to see them progress to, then they could help out the next wave. And then they were able to go on from there. And they still play today. It's phenomenal. And like you said, you start with a kid that maybe is not quite ready to accept what you're teaching, or the rest of the world is telling them they're not ready to accept what's going on. And then there you go. And now they're, like you said, now they're playing tournaments. Now they're doing things that they didn't think they could do. And it comes to that little stick and that little ball and being able to put you in the right spot. Now, to kind of flip things around a little bit, how did you become a pro? How did you become a USTA pro?
Well, I'm actually not a pro. I'm actually a USPTA coach
Oh,
certified. So this is kind of a crazy thing. I didn't really mean to become one.
right.
I'm a clothing designer, and I went to, we moved from California to Colorado, and my kids were little. I had a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old at the time, and I wanted a shower. So I went to the gym, and they would have babysitting there. So I would work out, and they would call me, and they would say, well, your kids don't want to sit in front of the TV and watch TV. So I said, well, okay, can't you bring them down to like the gymnastics or swimming? And they said, no, we can't do that. And I said, well, why not? And they said, well, we don't have staff for that. So I said, okay, well, I brought them arts and crafts. And so they stayed, they finally stayed. But then one day my kids said, hey, I want to go to swimming. But I said, gee, why can't they go swimming during the time that I'm working out? And take them down to gymnastics and have arts and crafts. So all the other parents were like, that's a great idea, because that keeps them there. Because what is it that you're doing that my kid's not doing? And I'm being called to come pick them up early. So they were doing the arts and crafts. Well, I decided this has to be more than arts and crafts. I would pay you to take my kids to all those places, where the gymnasium teacher, the gym teacher, he's like, he's just sitting there with 2 people. I'm like, there's like 100 kids up in kids club. Do something with them. So sure enough, the head guy, his name is Doug Scholzel. He's actually a pro. He was at Colorado Athletic Club Inverness at the time. And he says to me, what is it that I can do for you that you would make sure you put a program together? Can I give you a free membership or something? And I said, sure. So I did arts and crafts, and then I brought the kids down to swimming, and the swimming was never so busy. And then the gym teacher was never so busy. He did gymnastics with them. And then they have indoor tennis courts and outdoor tennis courts. It's mainly a tennis facility. So I said, well, why can't we go ahead and hire one of the pros? Oh, no, we can't do that. We can't give you a court. Are you kidding me? That would take away from the adults. So they said I could have a racquetball court. Well, at the time, the pro football players were playing there. Matter of fact, TB, I never forget this, on the Broncos. He came up to me and says, what are you teaching those kids? And I said, tennis. He goes, teach me tennis. You're going to have to teach me some tennis. So I did teach him tennis a little bit, not much. And then I'm sure he went with the pros that were on the tennis court. But anyhow, so my little kids got to play on the racquetball court. And I thought, you know what? This is fantastic. I don't need the big court. The racquetball court's perfect. Smaller area. And then we did smaller rackets, because these big, huge rackets that we have is way too big. Right. So my daughter, I have a picture of her in diapers still with a huge racket on the racquetball court. So I thought, let's use racquetball rackets. So sure enough, we used the racquetball rackets, and they were right size racket for the right size court. And then we did games, and we got the kids all excited. And before I knew it, I had this big program. all the parents were calling from from Greenwood Athletic Club, all these different athletic clubs saying, what are they doing over there? Everybody wants to come over to your program. So they told me I had to be certified. So they said the fastest certification was just become a coach certified, because you're not really doing too much other than that.
Right.
Which is fine. And I've actually ended up with my own programs at a subdivision near Cherry Creek High School, which they've been #1 for 40 something years in the state of Colorado. And I taught most of those, well, not most of those kids, but the last 20 years over that way. And I had 2 courts, and then I had 4 other courts, and we would do USTA women's tennis, and then we would do USTA team tennis for juniors. And I ran a whole program, and I never had time to actually become a pro certification. And I thought to myself, what's different? And my one friend that's a pro, he says, man, you're running a full facility thing going on here. What really is the difference? So I never knew what the difference was. I just did it. Like my brother said, just do it.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes you don't have to have, that little piece of paper. And the bottom line is, eventually when I have time, maybe I want that piece of paper. I don't know. I've never had the time to sit there and do it. But I did do an on-court with Diane Selsky. She was actually the USPTA president at the time. And so she gave me an on-court, and I had to show how I teach a serve and do this and that. And so I don't really know the difference, but maybe one day I'll take the time and become coach. Go from coach certification, which is recreational, to pro. Although I'm actually wanting to retire. That's one reason I got the book going on, is because I want to make sure that the next generation gets excited about playing tennis. And of course I want to continue I just moved down to Arizona and Scottsdale, and like to just play a lot of my own tennis. And I actually picked up golf yesterday.
Uh-oh.
All my friends were going to golf. I'm like, I don't want to sit in the house any longer. I'll go play golf.
Yeah, sure.
And it's a distance sport. So
right.
Yeah, it was really beautiful.
The fun thing about golf is you will sit there and say to yourself, why can't I hit that ball because it's sitting still, but I can hit a tennis ball coming back at me 80 miles an hour?
Yeah, I know, right? Isn't that funny? So I actually was really good. I was shocked. I mean, I lived on a tennis court, excuse me. Yes, I've lived on a tennis court pretty much for 30 years. But now I also in Colorado lived on Highlands Ranch Golf Course for over 15 years. I never golfed, but I did do the driving range. Mm-hmm. And yesterday doing it, this one lady said to me, oh, you'll be natural because you're a tennis teacher. And I said, okay, I'll try. The very first hit out was my best hit, my drive or whatever they call it, off the tee. And I got onto the green. And then it only took me 2 more times to get into the hole. I don't know what they call that. A par?
Yep.
Yeah, so I was okay.
It's all about repetitive motion, which is what you learn from tennis.
Exactly.
You have to replicate that stroke day after day and know how to make adjustments as you go, because you're not going to hit the same ball every time. But if you have the same mechanics, you can make adjustments, and that's what golf is about.
Oh, yeah, and it's a smart person sport like tennis. Now, the funny thing about it, my brother, he was an athlete. He had a scholarship. He was a pitcher in high school. He was a quarterback in high school. He had a scholarship for two different colleges for football, but he decided he wanted to play baseball. So he actually, again, had that mentality of just do it. So he gave up the scholarships. One was to Loyola Marymount in California, and the other one was to West Point, which is pretty good, you know? So he said, nope, not going to that. I want to play baseball. So he went to UCLA as a walk-on, and he became first string pitcher. And then, of course, he threw his, and then something happened, and they call it elbow chips. So he was pitching, and he got an elbow chip, and then he couldn't pitch anymore. And then that's when Nike came around, and he became the Nike rep. But anyways, the funny thing about it is, I would say to him, because he just loves golf, that he went on from baseball and football to golf and also tennis. He was a fantastic tennis player too. And the funny thing about it was I'd say to him one day, I go, what is it about that little ball that you want to get in a little hole? I don't get it. And he looked at me, as witty as he was, and he says, well, what possesses you to want to run around and chase that fuzzy green ball? And I got it. And the passion
Right.
behind it is that all you think about is the ball and
Right.
just enjoy life on the tennis court, not think about what you're going to have for dinner, what you're going to make for dinner, where your kids are, anything. It's just you and the ball, and it's so much fun.
Well, I was speaking to, I'm going to drop a name here, Johan Creek earlier today, who won the Australian Open 2 years in a row back in the early 80s. And he said, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but they have to take me off the court. I mean, he said, I would have kept playing had I not got injured. And then he said, Jimmy Connors called, and they went on the Champions Tour. And again, they had to shut down the Champions Tour for me to stop playing, And then he said, now I've got my academy in Florida. And no one's told me to quit yet, so I'm still there, He said, any number of times I've thought I should have stopped, but I can't. So that's where we're at here. That's kind of what we want to get across to everybody, is that passion, that zeal for what you do. My brother got sick and he stopped playing for 15 years. And he picked up a racket again. It's like, now he can't stop again. He's like,
it's a lifetime sport. Yeah. And not only that, I'm so amazed at how many people that are in their 80s and 90s down here in Scottsdale, Arizona that play. Amazing. And so people will say to me, well, you don't quite look your age and you run around and you're always playing singles. And I had to start to play doubles because more people play doubles down here than singles. And they say, I can't believe you can still play singles. And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. But I will be 60 years old next week or June, whenever that is, soon. And I'm telling you, I don't feel it. I don't feel it ever on the tennis court. I feel like I'm 20. So it's funny. I had this woman say to me, when I play tennis with you, and she's an older lady, and I obviously never asked her eight. She says to me, when I'm on the tennis court with you, I feel like I'm 20. And we, of course, win. And we play line one at the ATA level 4-5. And she says to me, you don't know how old I am. And I said, I don't know. How old are you? She said, 75. Wow. He was running around the tennis court as much as I was. And when I run on the tennis court, I am like 20 because I just go. If she's not getting it, I'm getting it.
Right. Yeah. And I remember playing it when I first moved back to my hometown, I'd go back to the club where I grew up at. It's like, you need to come down and play a little bit. I'm like, okay. And he said, you got to play with those guys in men's night. I was like, but they're old. I don't want to play with them. They kicked my butt all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because they knew more stuff. They'd learned more stuff. And they knew what they were doing. Like, well, I should go home now. I don't want to play with them anymore. Give me the teenagers again. All right. So give me a quick plug for where we can find the book, all that good fun stuff, where all the little links and everything. And then we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, let me show you the book.
All right.
And it's now on Amazon, and it's under, obviously, Just Love Tennis for Kids. I also have sold it to All About Tennis in Scottsdale, Arizona. So it's in stores. It's also in Game Set Match in Colorado, and they have like 6 stores. It's not just a book, though. So it's not to really be on a shelf. It has been in pro shops all over. It's also as a program for these pros. So pros are buying it as well. And you can go ahead and order it through me at rachellelifpitz@yahoo.com. And we have a special price for that versus a retail on Amazon. I would love to show you a couple of the pages. So here's the start of it, Just Love Tennis for Kids. And then it starts with rackets, and then you find your right size court. And here's Addie. She's so cute. Then you get to color her. And then here's Nettie. And then there's a size racket. Here's a little captions, coach and parent explanation boxes. Okay. So once I'm going to go ahead and grab the actual book and see how it looks in color. It's pretty cool in color. And so they get to actually draw it.
Okay. All right.
And what was really the reason behind being able to make it a coloring book and a tennis manual, mainly the coloring book became kind of my ego. I wanted to color it, and I did color it. And then I had kids say to me, hey, Coach Rachelle, I want to color that. So we made it a coloring book so then kids at school can color it, or kids at home can color it. And then I go to the school system and I'll say, you know, hug your racket like a bear. And then I'll teach them all the parts of the racket. This is the head, this is the face, this is the neck, this is the handle. And of course they laugh when we say the butt. And I'll show them the parts of my head and my face and like that. So I've actually gone with USTA in Colorado into the school system. And then USTA through Net Generation will give them rackets and balls.
Oh, great.
They won't get nets, but they'll have to purchase nets. But then they purchase the book through me. And once they do that, so they have to sign up with Net Generation, then they get the book through me, and then they have the rackets and balls. Now, Net Generation has more fun activities for them to do after that point in time. And I believe that's pretty much it.
Well, this is the fun thing about what I do is I get to talk to people that are passionate about what they do. And we get to learn something too. So this is one of those things where we're like, okay, this is something, when I was growing up, I'd have liked to have had something like that for several reasons. But one, the instruction, because I kind of picked it up as I went along, and I wasn't one of those people who was going to listen to somebody tell me something, but I would have read about it and I would have followed it that way. And then two, the aspect of looking at it where it's like, okay, we're going to draw you in as a coloring book. And now I'm going to learn something from that. So I think that's very important. It's like, the people that aren't necessarily looking at it as information will still get the information through osmosis. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
And I believe what's really kind of fun is that it has the reading book. So if somebody wants to put their actual program together and they want to do like a camp, they could have kids in one corner, like 5 of them, and obviously separated, and they could be reading the book by themselves. Then there can be an area where the kids, 5 of them, are on court with the coach and separated, and then they can have another area where they're coloring the book. And I have done this with Girl Scouts and the Girl Scout leaders, and they just love it. And all they have to know how to do is toss underhand, look at the captions at the top, and read it to them. So the kids can read it. I had a 6-year-old little boy read it to his 4-year-old sister and be able to do everything and just get out on the street. Right. And with all of this virus happening, the kids have to get off the couch. They have to get off the couch and they have to do some sort of PE. Well, they got PE, art, and reading all in one.
Good.
So this is not just a book. This is just Love Tennis for Kids that gets them engaged. And it's just the beginning of it, because as you know, had you had a book like this, you could have just taken your racket and not bother your dad and hit against the wall, or take a cone and make some ice cream with it. There's all sorts of fun things to do in the book, and it just keeps going. Like somebody said to me, actually, the USPTA president, Kevin, he said to me the other day, he says, I just love your book. What a great timing for this. And I said, okay, that makes sense. But guess what? Tennis is always. It doesn't matter what timing. So his thing was, wow, the timing's great because you have this homeschooled parents. Well, the parents were using it as homeschooled parents were using the book. But they were obviously now using it 10 times more because they really need it, because they
Right.
have to do PE and they have to do art and they have to get their kids outside because they're driving them crazy.
Right.
So my neighbor, same thing. She's like, give me one of those books. Give me two of
Right.
those books. Give me. And they're a little bit losing it because they're not used to being, the teachers as well. But then when they come inside after they've played tennis, they're tired and they've been engaged, so they're ready for their little nap.
Well, and I think it's a great thing not only for the kids, but also for aunts, uncles, grandparents, whatnot. Hey, I've got a rambunctious 8-year-old that no one can settle down. Boom. I think
Yeah.
what happened right away. It's fantastic. I was going to go off into some little kid that I coached was great little kid, but like you said, he was kind of all around. He's one of those kids we were playing on the clay courts or teaching on the clay courts. And the lesson was going fine. I think he was 8 or 9 at the time, maybe. And the lesson was going bent down to pick up the ball, and he went, dirt, done. He sat down, started playing in the clay. I'm like, no, it's not dirt. And that was it. Lesson's done. It's Mom, come get him. He's finished, And he came back the next week, but he realized he was playing on dirt. That was it. So, and it would have been a great thing to say, now, Mom, take him over here, show him a couple of things, let him draw a little bit, and he'll get back into the tennis book. So I think it's a great thing you're doing. I think it's fantastic. We'll get more people to see it. We'll get more people to be involved.
Thank you so much. Now, one other thing I do need to tell you
Okay.
is that through my brother passing, I put together a fundraiser with Souls for Souls. Do you know
Right.
that company?
No, but you told me about it, right?
Okay, so Souls for Souls is a company that you would, a dollar goes back to, from the book, goes to Souls for Souls. And what we did is we collected shoes at different sporting events. Orange Theory, I think we did it at Core Power, and we did it at many, many tennis facilities here in Arizona as well as in Colorado. And I can't mention all of them because there's thousands of shoes. So I think we ended up doing like 4,000 or 5,000 pairs of shoes within like a 5. And we also did it at churches and synagogues, and we collected shoes in his memory. And then once I did the book, I thought, how awesome would it be for every facility, wherever the book goes, that Souls for Souls box goes to collect shoes,
Great.
gently worn shoes, so that other kids could go ahead and that don't have shoes, because you really do need a pair of shoes on the tennis court. It needs to be tennis shoes. So that has been my passion. And so it's not for me to, my passion was never to make $1 million off this book. It's not money. The passion I have is to get every kid I know, as parent, to be able to teach them tennis. And if there's an underprivileged child, they can get this for free. If there's a child that wants the book because they just like to color, they can get the book for coloring. It's going into the school system, so the schools can have these books for when kids, after they've done their PE class, they can go ahead and done that session. They can bring the book home and get the whole family involved and go outside and enjoy tennis. If you can't go outside, you can still do some things inside as well. So that's been my passion, is just to get this book in everybody's hands. I have a really good friend in Colorado that actually worked with my daughter as well. And it's funny because when you meet people, you think, wow, how is this connection happening? So his name is Dan Gonzalez, and he's Pancho Gonzalez's son. And he hit with my daughter until he couldn't hit with her anymore because she was so powerful. She had some major topspin. Anyways, turns out that I talked to my father-in-law and I said, Dan Gonzalez is teaching my daughter, tennis. He's the son of Pancho Gonzalez. And he says, of course, I know Pancho. And I said, really? He says, yeah, I know Pancho. I even have his racket. So let me show you. Okay, I'm going to show you 2 rackets. So this is one that you would see everywhere, and it says Pancho Gonzalez. You see it?
Right, right.
And it's the old wood
Small, right?
Spalding racket. Yes. Well, this one, look at the difference of the grip. Okay, this one's thin.
Right.
It's one that we all kind of just had. Everybody had one of those. Well, look at this one, the way it was hit, and look at the strings.
Right.
Well, Poncho, this was his actual racket.
Wow.
And I showed it to Dan Gonzalez, and he says, yes, where did you get that? That's my dad's racket. And I said, my father-in-law was at a barbecue, and he went ahead, and he had just played, and he's come home from Malibu. They lived in Malibu, and he had just played a match, and he said, here's this racket, and it was broken. And my father-in-law said, okay, what do I want to do with this broken racket? He said, just keep it. And he kept it.
That's great.
And I mean, look at the grip on that.
Oh, yeah.
His hand was
That
huge.
takes a big man, yeah.
Yeah, and then look at the hand-eye that he would be able to hit a ball.
Hit a sweet spot every time.
Yeah, and broke the that string. It's amazing.
Wow.
So, but and it's funny because my father-in-law was in real estate, and he actually helped Poncho get a piece of property at the time for his camps. And so it's like full circle. I talked to Dan, and he says, I love your book. I love your book. I'm doing a project with underprivileged Hispanic kids with Billie Jean King in Palm Desert, California. And he says, I would love to have the book there because this would be so great. These kids would be able to just learn tennis through your book because of course they're going to get on the court and they're going to play, but then they're going to forget.
Right.
And you go home with the book and then you can have the whole family play. So it's just, there's so many things you can do with this book. So it's not just a book.
Right. And like you said, it's something that you can share with generations, and the stories that we have through tennis. I mean, it's a lifelong journey, and that's fantastic. So you start them off young, or you start the old people off starting off young, or however you look at it, and then bring them from there. So I'm really happy that you had a chance to talk to us.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Enjoy your day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.